See, I told you. I said this was going to happen. I called it from a mile away. Hello, and how is everyone doing this wonderful day? It is Friday. It is too early in the morning o'clock. It is raining outside, gray skies, but that isn't going to stop me from talking about this because when I heard about it, this is too good to pass up. Too good to pass up. Alright, so let's back this up. Let's back up the truck a little bit. Talking about Battlefield 5. Now, right off the bat, when it comes to the Battlefield series, it's not... I want to preface this correctly. I don't want to say I'm a fan, because I'm not. I don't want to say I hate the series, because I don't. I remember when the Battlefield series first came out, I was arguably a fan. It was enjoyable. As the series went on, I feel like it was trying to become way too much like Call of Duty, and the problem Call of Duty has is that it tries to it cannibalizes whatever it can, and that's kind of why now the next Call of Duty is trying to get as far away from like wall jumping and all that extra space age stuff, because they realized exactly just how bad that was. So, let's get to now. What are we talking about now, Battlefield 5? Well, when the trailer dropped prior to E3, a lot of people were not happy that one of the leading characters in the trailer was a prosthetic arm, war paint wielding, red-headed woman. And basically made her look out to be like some kind of super mega hero. And this is a series that likes to pride itself on realistic integrity. Now, I personally could care less whether or not they want to go this route. It doesn't. I don't care, because to me it doesn't matter. If they want to go this route, fine. But I said it in a podcast that there's a way to do it and there's a way not to. There's show don't tell, and it felt like this was trying so hard to do both. It had to constantly remind you how much of a badass woman this was. Now here's the thing. When it comes to being badass, a lot of people, it's a gut feeling. Like, they get that feeling about somebody. If you have to keep reminding somebody about it, it's not quite as badass. And I'll give you a very fair example, okay? Let's talk about Chris Pratt's character in Jurassic World. How many times in that movie, within like 30 minutes, did either the people making the movie or the characters in the movie have to remind us how awesome or cool his character was? Quite a bit. Almost to the point where it was kind of obnoxious. And they didn't have to flat out say it. They just kept putting him in scenarios where it's like, oh my god, he's so freaking cool. And to an extent it worked, but in this case the writing was on the wall. They were trying so hard. And it was just like this cringy kind of feeling like they needed to show you like this is war. I'm like, but it's not. It's not. A woman outrunning tanks, being shot by the enemy, is the perfect enemy, completely capable of sneaking up on anyone, better, like a borderline ninja. But apparently she puts everyone else to shame. Like, she can take bullet fire like no one's business, but the minute your character in the first person's perspective in the trailer gets ambushed by one person, you can't fight him off. But a shot other person with a prosthetic arm is going to come to the rescue. And I'm also not stating that people with prosthetics can't do heroic things. But it's situations like that. It's like how much of a disadvantage right away can you give somebody, and then have to show off later on, like, you don't mess with them, they're badass. But anyway, people hated on that. I got a very kind of cringe feeling from it, and I'm like, look, time will tell. The biggest issue I had was, this is the company that also said, hey, EA, this is EA, we're done. We're not going to do any more crap with loot boxes and loot crates and pay-to-win options. And right off the bat, that's exactly what they did. Granted, it wasn't as cheap as what they were trying to do with Battlefront 2, but it was close. See, if you pre-ordered, they'd give you access to the beta, which gives everyone an unfair advantage. It gives people an advantage. Not an unfair advantage, but an advantage nonetheless. You also have access to, I think it was 20 weeks worth of airdrops multiple times a week, which essentially meant random bonuses you would get. So it's catering to that system. Again, you get I think 1 or 2 different custom sets of weaponry and perks and equipment that you would only have access to if you paid for the pre-order. And this was right after they announced it. This wasn't like later on they made these adjustments. They did this day one with the pre-order page. And this is where we're going to get into the meat and potatoes here. It's about 5.5 minutes. Let's talk about why I'm making this video. So despite all that, and like I said, I've mentioned in a podcast, I'm like, as it stands right now, I am not sold on this game. It's trying way too hard to sell you on a character that I'm pretty sure is only going to, if she were to have any importance, it would be in the story mode. But then EA DICE execs decided they were going to take their wars online. Even to the point where according to an article written at the tail end of May, EA DICE exec fires back about women in Battlefield 5. Now, I'm just going to say this. Of course, there's going to be people out there who are going to complain that a woman is the leading role in video games. And to that I say that is ridiculous and pointless, and I don't support that ideology whatsoever. I love leading women in video games. I loved all of the female characters in Until Dead, although now that I'm looking back on it, I'd say arguably half of them, if not more, were pretty dispensable. But Hayden Panettiere, if I'm saying her name correctly, I thought she was pretty cool. But, most importantly, there's a few others out there. I mean, Samus, Tomb Raider, Aloy from Horizon. They're there. You gotta find them, but they're there. I don't know her name, but the leading character in Bayonetta, she's pretty badass. But anyway, so of course it had to go onto Twitter because why not? And of course, the EA's chief design officer decided to take it upon himself and tell people, his name Patrick Soderlund, went on Twitter and to say that if you don't like women in games, don't buy the game. And I believe he said it in more flavorful context, which I don't have sitting in front of me. So, let me just say this really quickly, okay? When you're trying to market a game, you have to understand, and this is to anyone who doesn't understand how business works, so for like the 3 or 4 of you who listen who don't understand. When you're putting a product out there, you want everybody on board, because you want to make money. That's the name of the game. Creating a passion project. Let's be honest, this is not a passion project for EA. If this was a passion project, they would have worried more about the game itself and not trying to push an aesthetic of the game. So they were ruffling feathers, and of course they're taking to Twitter telling people, if you don't like what we have, then don't pay, then don't follow, don't buy it, don't get on board. Okay, that's one way to handle it. That's pretty much telling the customer, screw off, we don't care. So, as someone who is a fan of making money when it comes to promoting a business, because I used to help run a business, that's the number one way to piss people off. And other people are going to see that, and they're then going to tell themselves, well, why should I invest in them if they're not going to invest in me, or they're invest in my friends or family? Because if they have a dissenting opinion and they don't agree with it to the point where they're saying, well, then we don't want your business, like, that's something you tell a customer in a restaurant who's just being a blatant asshole to everyone there, being loud, obnoxious, and rude, and you're just like, we don't want your service, please leave. Like, that's different. You've given them a chance, and they're still acting outside of it. Here, it's not that same. It's people with dissenting opinions about it, and it goes beyond people just being sexist. This is people who just had an issue with the launch trailer, had an issue with how they were setting up their pre-orders, and how they were making false promises about how they weren't going to go back to their loot crate system or anything like that, when clearly that was a lie. They're not marketing the game. They haven't shown anything since E3 except roughly the same trailer. And this game is due to drop in a couple of months. There's nothing here. They put nothing into it except a team to fight people on social media defending a vision, which they then have said on multiple occasions. Don't worry, if you don't want to play as the woman, you can play as the man. Okay, then why are you pushing the narrative? Why are you falling so hard on this hilt? And people might not understand where I'm coming from. And again, I want to make this crystal clear as humanly possible. I have no problem playing a female in a video game. I have no problem if that. I do not care whatsoever. I have, like, when it came to the Bayonetta, some of, like, my more closer, stricter Christian friends, they had a problem with that idea because, like, well, she's a witch. And I'm like, right, but we were just at your house watching Harry Potter, so please explain to me, where's the line? I think the problem is you just have an issue with a character who, I'm not gonna lie, that lead character in Bayonetta is a tad sexual. I'm like, okay, well then that's where your disconnect should be. It's a video game. It's movies. And if you disagree with it, so what? There were things about games I necessarily did not like, and I'm like, I'll let that be as that. These are people who are trying so hard to just cover up what they clearly laid out in stone. They knew what they were doing. They were trying to be activists for their own cause, and rather than just own up to it and say we were trying to push a certain narrative for the sake of getting more people on board, we realized that we were also alienating fans, which they did, because that's the meat and taters of where we're coming to next, and that is Mr. Patrick Soderlund, who decided he was going to go on Twitter and make it a personal mission of his to alienate and blackball people who didn't share his same opinions and views. Telling people, hey, if you don't like what we got, screw off, don't buy what we have, or don't pay attention, shut up, and all that good stuff, actually is leaving EA. EA exec departure comes ahead of big game launch, according to Market Talk. Chief Design Officer is leaving just 2 months before the launch of a new installment of one of the biggest franchises, Battlefield. Patrick Soderlund has been with EA for nearly 20 years and worked out of its DICE studio in Stockholm that makes the war-themed video game series. Earlier this month, the Cohen Group said that pre-order sales of Battlefield 5 had been weak due for release in between Activision Blizzard, next Call of Duty, basically trying to make excuses saying, oh, well, you're trying to release it in between a new Call of Duty and a Red Dead Redemption game, so that's why. No, no, that's not it at all. They have put nothing into this game. The pre-orders are low. The fans called bullshit. Just like they called bullshit on Star Wars Battlefront 2, which I can now buy at a Redbox for $10. These are the people that were saying we're going to learn from the mistakes of the first Battlefield. We're going to make it better. What happened? They made it even more lopsided and ridiculous. And the only fun comes from the modes that literally have almost nothing to do with character customization and more with like the ship battles. That's what they focused on. They said, "Screw you, we're doing it our way." They lied to you, okay, and people saw through it. And the fans told them, "You're not going to get another chance." The fans united on that front, and good for them. And then now, with it being announced that the Sutherland is basically stepping down, which I'm pretty sure is corporate talk for he's being asked to step down by the more higher ups, because basically if they fire him, then he can press charges for defamation of character. They don't want to end up in court and have to pay out severance and things like that. So this is probably an agreement between him and the higher ups that he will graciously step down. They will pay him. He will pay him X amount of dollars to do so. They'll keep quiet about him. He'll keep quiet about them, and they'll do it appropriately. And now it's damage control mode. Pre-order numbers are low because people called them out for the pre-order nonsense that it was. Granted, it wasn't as bad as the Battlefront 2, but it was still there. The airdrop bonuses, special access to characters and weaponry, which is going to give people an advantage. And yes, I get it. When you have access to betas, you have those advantages. But not everyone has access to them. This is different. This is if you pre-ordered the game. And if I remember correctly, it was about an extra $20, $30 for the extra edition. And I looked at it, and to me, it doesn't feel like it's worth that extra $30. Pre-order numbers are low because they have put almost nothing into this series since E3. I have hardly seen anything for it. I haven't seen a single ad for it on the internet. I haven't seen a single ad for it on YouTube. I don't really watch TV anymore, so I can't comment on whether or not there's something there. But now that they're trying to say, oh well, it's sandwiched in between Black Ops 4 and Red Dead Redemption 2. This is them trying to pick up the pieces of what they were attempting to do, which was trying to be the socially aware group that was going to usher in the new era, and they're realizing really quick that people don't give a shit. They want to play the games, they want to have a good time, they don't want to sit here and listen to your message. Other games and developers have been able to do it better. Okay? The Last of Us, perfect example. Perfect example of trying to set up a story within a story. I didn't have to throw it in your face. Ellie as a person and as a character is badass. And for 14, 15 years old? Because she's independent, she takes no crap from anybody. She doesn't have to constantly remind people she's intelligent. And she doesn't show off. She states what she wants to state. She speaks clear and concisive. She knows what she's talking about, and she's not afraid of pissing people off. There's a balance there. People see that. When you put somebody in front of you and you're trying to tell us this is why you should buy the game. By the way, we got nothing else of the game to show you. Here's some pre-order stuff. Here's this cool person on the cover. Please do this. Oh, by the way, if you don't like it, you're against women. They got caught with the hands in the cookie jar. Now they're facing the ramifications. And now there's probably a really good chance that Battlefield 5 is going to see probably the lowest numbers of any game in its series, arguably next to Hardline. And they just won't listen. So, as much as I don't like to get political in these rants, I will say this. They definitely were trying to cater to more... They were definitely trying to cater to a different audience. They got away from the serious fan base, and rather than trying to be all-inclusive and maybe even accept some humility, they decided they were going to stick to their guns, and this is what happened. And I have no tears to shed for them, and I don't think any of you should either.